Welcome into OutKick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. I hope all of you are having fantastic. What's today? Today is Monday. I hope you're having fantastic Mondays wherever you can be. Game of Thrones feels so much like an exciting work day, like a Monday Night Football or something like that, that it is like a total, it totally like flips my schedule during these 6 weeks. There's a lot of drama in the Twitter streets. I know a lot of people want to get into the drama in the Twitter streets. We do this show every single day. Let me go ahead and run through several things that we're going to be talking about. Kate Smith, statue, comes down with the Flyers. She can no longer sing God Bless America. We're going to break it down. Russell Westbrook, why I think he's selling himself short and looking bad as Oklahoma City, the Thunder, collapse again. Game of Thrones last night, lots of reaction to that. Klay Thompson takes a dip in the ocean and then can't miss from anywhere. And I know a lot of people probably will tune in and be like, oh my God, what's going on with your Barstool beef or whatever you want to say associated with that. So I'll start off with that because I understand people love drama on the Twitter streets. This is not that complicated of a story, but I'll give everybody a background because I think that's fair. So what is it now, 2019? I went to work initially in 2013 with Fox Sports to do their daily college football show. We got our ass kicked by College Game Day with Aaron Andrews, with, let's see, who else was with us? It was Aaron Andrews, Petros Papadakis, Joel Klatt, Mike Pereira, and Eddie George, that whole crew. We had a really fun show, but we got our ass kicked, and they canceled the show after a year. Well, I signed a deal to go work with Fox at that time. And so before I signed that deal to go work with Fox, I didn't know Barstool. I didn't know Dave Portnoy at all. He reached out to me on DM, said, hey, I've got this company in Boston. There seems like there's overlap with you and what you do at OutKick. I'd like to talk about working with you, something along the lines. And this has been talked about before. I don't think it's like some major story. So I talked to Dave then. I didn't know him at all. I liked him. He was smart. We're very similar. Sometimes in the way we think. But Fox offered me a lot more money. And so he was like, yeah, I get it. You got a lot more money on the table from Fox. You got to take the money from Fox. They also, it was a great deal, right? I controlled 100% of OutKick, continue to write for them, everything else. I thought that was pretty intriguing, but I started to pay attention with him then. I think he hired Big Cat around that time. And I was like, these guys are funny, they're entertaining, and I thought we had a decent kind of relationship. So fast forward several years, and at some point in time, Portnoy started to chirp at me on Twitter. And I thought it was totally WWE for show, because I'm like, this dude is almost 40 years old, I'm almost 40 years old, and he's talking about who's friends and who's not friends. I'm like, I'm not 16, I'm not 17 years old, I got 3 kids. I work all the time, but I'll play up anything for a show, right? So I thought it was a show, and then Big Cat reaches out and he's like, no, he's really upset about this, and this is not just for show. Like, he's genuinely upset about the stuff that you're doing. And I was like, whatever. So we sat down and talked. I think at like the Super Bowl in San Francisco. I thought everything was great, and then he decided he hated me. So I was like, well, whatever. Along the way, they would take shots at me. Occasionally, I'd return fire at them. But I really didn't spend that much time, and still don't, thinking about anybody other than the work that I do. So fast forward, he hires a couple of people that I liked. I knew Julie from Fox Sports, Julie Stewart-Binks. And then he hired Casey. And I knew Julie and consider her to be a friend. But Casey I would consider to be a really good friend. We got to know each other in the SEC. I think she's really talented. I don't want to put Casey in the middle of this. But she eventually, Barstool hired Casey. And so last year at the, and by the way, Portnoy banned anybody from coming on my radio shows. He told the Pardon My Take guys, you can't ever talk to Clay Travis. So I was like, all right, whatever. That seems strange to me. Like, I've never banned anybody on my radio shows or anything else. But again, that was just Dave, and I was like, whatever. So at the U.S. Open last year up in New York, like, he was there and I was there broadcasting, and I invited him to come on the radio show. And I said, hey, by the way, I like some of the people that you've hired. I think they're really talented. In particular, Casey's a really good friend, and I think that there are more people who are attacking us. Like, we have a lot of common enemies. I think it's stupid for us to feud in any way. I said, I want you to know you can have whatever opinion you want of me, but you have an open invite on my show, and I really don't have any grudge against you. And around that same time, I texted Casey when she went to work at Barstool, and I said, look, I don't have anything against Portnoy. You can let him know that. But good luck. I think you're going to do well there, and she has. And this is not like any crazy story. I've told her I'm proud of her. I think she's done really good work, she does. She's really talented. I mean, she's a friend, but she's also really good at what she does, and I think she was a good fit for them, and I think she's worked well. And so since that time, like I don't think I've tweeted Portnoy once. And then over the past couple of years, every now and then he just decides he wants to take shots at me, and I just return fire. And so he took shots at me today. About Game of Thrones, I think, for God's sakes. And I was like, you know what? Let's just fight for money. I'm a capitalist. There is money to be made in the world by fighting. I will fight anybody for $1 million if they're also middle-aged and if they also have never fought professionally before. And I think it would be really successful. I think they would make more money than they have ever made in the history of their boxing competitions than ever before. Zero doubt at all about that. I don't even think that they could dispute that there would be infinitely more interest in Portnoy fighting me. And I said there'd be even more interest if you put $5 million to the winner. So he would make infinitely more money off of the pay-per-view. He would probably not lose any money at all, and I would box him. So this is like, to me, a non-issue. But if you're going to keep chirping at me, let's just go fight in the ring. I'll put on a show. You put on a show. You'll sell more tickets than you'd ever have sold before, and I'll fight you. So I just tweeted that out. And then he kind of ran from that. And to his credit, he says he'll come on the show, and he may come on the show next week and come on. So I think I'd beat his ass. I mean, I'm not kidding. I mean, I'm bigger, stronger, tougher, faster. I think I would beat his ass in a boxing match. I mean, I wouldn't challenge somebody I thought was going to beat my ass. I'm going to be honest with you. But if you pay me $1 million, I also wouldn't fight for free. You pay me $1 million, I'll fight against Portnoy, put $5 million on the line. I'll risk getting knocked out and giving him the opportunity to meme me for the rest of his life. But for $1 million, I'll handle it, right? And so that seemed like a no-brainer to me. Again, for better or worse, you can hate me. You can despise me with every fiber of your being. I'm not a grudge guy. I don't hold grudges. I'm like a defensive back. Every play I think is brand new. If I get burned for a touchdown, I'm still going to line up and talk trash on the next play. But at the end of the game, it doesn't really impact me. Because what I do for a living, I think I got the best job in America. And what I do for a living, like, is just kind of ideal, right? I get to talk on the radio about sports. I get to gamble on television. I get to write books saying exactly what I want to say. And I've got a website where I can write whatever I want to say. So I frankly don't have a lot of time to worry about what anybody outside of my house thinks about me. I make a ton of money, more money than I ever thought I would make probably in my life in a year now. And I don't have any concerns. I got a hot wife. I got 3 kids, male heirs, as I like to say, all young. I'm coaching Little League Baseball later on today. I did radio this morning. I'm going to do television in a half hour. And so I don't really worry that much about what any person outside of my house. I mean this honestly. I don't care what any person outside of my house thinks about me. I really don't. So anyway, I'll box him for $1 million. I'll put him on the radio show. I'd be happy to put on Barstool People. I don't know these guys well, but in my limited experience with PFT, he's a really funny dude, good dude. I've met him in person, enjoyed hanging out with him. I like Big Cat. I've hung out with him. I think he's a really good dude. Again, I got no feud with anybody. I've been on their shows before, and a while back, Portnoy just said he didn't care about me or being friends. It's really strange to me. I mean, you have a 40-year-old guy saying, like, I don't want to be friends with you. I don't remember the last time I talked to a grown man about whether or not I was friends with him. Maybe this is what happens when you're not married and you don't have kids and you hit middle age. You got to, continue to perpetuate high school crisis, high school drama. Maybe so. It's good. I mean, gets a little bit more attention. I'm not opposed to it for fun, but I just think it's kind of weird for real life. So it's not a feud. Somebody just said, I'm confused by what caused the feud. I don't really know. A feud would imply that, like, I'm angry at Barstool and, like, I'm really upset with them. For the most part, I just return fire when fired upon and try to have a good time on social media. It's not like I sit around worried about things on a day-to-day life. So, again, I like a lot of the people at Barstool. Dave, for whatever reason, has decided he doesn't like me. I tried to be the bigger man last year and say, look, there are a lot of people out there that are opposed to you. I don't know why. Like Deadspin, for instance, I think I said specifically, I don't know why you want to feud with me when Deadspin hates both of us. right? I'm like, instead of shooting at me, you should be wanting to be in the bunker with me shooting at a lot of the stupid people out there on the internet who are perpetually triggered. And so I don't really understand it. And I also don't understand, like, he's like, oh, he stole my shit. I don't even think we're that similar. I really don't. I mean, first of all, I can spell, all right? I can spell. And also, like, we don't write about similar things very often. We certainly wouldn't write books about similar subjects. I am from the South. He's from the Northeast. He cares about the Yankees and the Red Sox. I care about SEC football. I don't really see that much of an overlap. Now, we both write on the internet and talk on the internet and are in the opinion business in some form or fashion. But I don't think there's that many times where, for instance, you would read something that Dave wrote and then you would read something that I wrote and be like, oh my God, these are identical. I don't even think you would watch or listen to our radio shows or television and be like, oh my God, these guys are identical. I don't dislike him. I think he's funny. I think he's talented. I think for some reason he's kind of triggered by me. I don't really know why, again, but I don't think we're that similar. So again, I'm not a podcast guy. I don't sit around and listen to other people's radio shows or other people's podcasts, so I can't really comment on it. You guys can, but I've never heard that, oh my God, these guys are like take the name off the top of an article and you couldn't tell them apart. Take the name off of a radio show and you couldn't tell them apart. I just really don't think we're that similar. Now, what I told him was, look, I agreed I'm going to start selling apparel. I'm going to try to make money off of OutKick. Like, if somebody does something smart from a business perspective, I'm going to dive in and figure out how to monetize it. But it's not like when they started their VIP section, I was like, oh no, I started VIP first. It's not like UFC is like, oh my God, we came up with the idea for pay-per-view. Everybody finds business models and tries to make money off of them the best way they can. So I don't get it. I mean, I don't think it's very, very similar at all. And somebody's like, you're not similar. He's successful. You're not. Well, first of all, think about this for a moment. All right. This is a general rule. How pathetic of a life do you have to spend your free time getting into somebody's online show to argue about which of two people you don't know is more successful or not? I don't know how you could advertise more succinctly that your penis doesn't work than by arguing about two people who are infinitely more successful than you are and make infinitely more money and probably bang infinitely better looking women over the course of time. Certainly my wife is much better looking than the vast majority of people out there who live in anonymous commenter world. And you're going to argue about who makes more money. Like, that's really lame. That's like going into an NBA clubhouse and being like, ha ha, Russell Westbrook, you make less money than Paul George. You know what they both make? A whole fucking lot more money than you do. It's really a little dick move. I gotta say, I don't understand it. See, my argument is focus on making yourself rich. Don't worry about other people who are already richer than you and trying to rank them in perpetual. Like, I have no idea how much money Dave has. You know how much I got? A fuck ton. You know how much I used to have? Nothing. I could stop working right now and live off what I have. How many people can say that at the age of 40? Not very many. So I consider myself to be pretty happy. But maybe he's got more money than I do. Maybe I've got more money than him. I don't know. But you know what we both have? A lot more money than almost anybody on the internet. So I really don't spend that much time comparing myself to other people because I make a hell of a living and I love what I do. And if you do that, if you spend less time worried about it's even crazier to me that somebody who doesn't even make a living would decide to do that. I think it's really, really a strange perspective. And so I don't even really understand it, in all honesty. I mean, again, people who regularly watch and listen to my show know that I talk about helicopter dick thinking and mosquito dick thinking. Counting other man's money is mosquito dick thinking. Unless you are thinking, hey, I want to one day have as much money as that guy. I root for everybody in our industry to make as much money as possible because guess what? A rising tide lifts all boats. You can listen to this show regularly. I said, look, I want Stephen A. Smith to make $10 million a year. I want Stephen A. to make $20 million a year. I want everybody in the sports media opinion business to get filthy rich, just like a quarterback wants everybody else out there to get the next big contract. Do you think that that Patrick Mahomes was sitting around when he saw that Russell Wilson got $35 million pouting? Or was he thinking, fuck yeah, I'm going to make $40 million. I want everybody to make more money. I'm not a zero-sum guy. So I'd like for Barstool to succeed. I would like for Dave to make infinite amounts of money. Because you know what? Bill O'Reilly made $25 million a year. I'd like to make Bill O'Reilly money. I don't want to make Dave Portnoy money. I want to make Bill O'Reilly money. I want to make Stephen A. Smith money. I want to make Colin Cowherd money. Because those guys are really talented at what they do. And because one day I would like to be in their class when it comes to income. And right now, I'm in a much higher class than I ever thought I would be. So that's the truth. That's that story. I don't think there's any other aspect associated with it. There you go. Kate Smith. I am fired up about this Kate Smith story because I think it represents everything that's wrong with society today. I don't know how many of you have been paying attention to this, but in the 1930s, a woman named Kate Smith sang God Bless America, and the Yankees have been playing it, and the Philadelphia Flyers have been playing it for a long time. And on top of that, all right, this is utterly insane, all right? Years ago, in the 1930s, she evidently sang another song that was written by somebody else, I think a black guy, although I'm not an expert in 1930s songs that are no longer available to listen to anywhere. And people decide, you know what, that song is racist. So a couple of people got triggered, and they emailed the company, right? They decided they were going to email the Flyers, and they were going to email the Yankees. And the Flyers put up a statue to this woman outside of their arena because they started playing God Bless America, and the team won all their big games. They brought her in during the Stanley Cup, and she won in a big way. They won their only, I think it's their only Stanley Cup, or their only Stanley Cup since 1975. So kind of to pay homage, and also as a superstition, they put up a statue to her outside, all right? She died in 1986. Before she died, she was given the Presidential Medal of Honor from Ronald Reagan. She, during World War II, single-handedly raised $600 million to fight against Nazis. You can research it yourself. $600 million. All right? That's $11 billion in today's money. $11 billion she raised to fight Hitler. I don't know where you go on the moral equivalency scale, but if you were to put Kate Smith, who raised $11 billion to fight against Adolf Hitler and the Nazis, more than any other celebrity on radio or singing during her era raised, I would think that her scorecard would look pretty good, right? I would think if you were like looking at Kate Smith, you're like raised $11 billion to fight the Nazis. Pretty good. Pretty good little check mark in her list of career accomplishments. So a couple of people get outraged over her 1930s lyrics to a song she sang. This is not her song. She didn't write it. She sang the song. People who are experts in 1930s music say that the song was satire. This is like getting upset about an SNL skit 80 years after it happened. In other words, she was ridiculing the racism of the day by singing this song. Now, I understand that most people on the internet think that satire is a part of a car, but the reality is this woman did absolutely nothing wrong. There are a huge number of people, actually not even that huge of a number, but there's a certain number of people that want to be perpetual victims. And the problem is they don't represent overall society. It's a great statistic. Pew Research did a study recently, and they dove in and they said, this is amazing. I just want to give you the data because I don't think this got enough attention. Who hates political correctness? There's this idea that political correctness is only hated by a small minority of people, and that if you spend time on social media, there's this huge group of woke social justice warriors, all right? So this study from Pew Research, I think, is amazing because it kind of puts into perspective. You can go read it. I linked it on OutKick. You can read the entire report. It's summarized by The Atlantic. Among the general population, a full 80%. Do you know how hard it is to get 80% of people to agree with anything? It's almost impossible. A full 80% believe political correctness is a problem in the country, even young people. 74% ages 24 to 29, and even higher, 79% under the age of 24. And then let's break it down by race. 79% overall in the country 82% of Asians, 87% of Hispanics, 88% of Native Americans, and 79% of white people, all right? Black people, who are perpetually offended if you listen to the woke community, represent 75% of them also hate political correctness. So, the nation as a whole is opposed to political correctness. This is why Donald Trump got elected. I've said for a long time, Trump is an imperfect vehicle for a belief system that many people have. There's a much more eloquent defender of much of Donald Trump's politics than him. But this is insane, all right? So, what happens is the Flyers and the Yankees are emblematic of the era we live in, when no one is willing to say, hey, you're losers, we're going to ignore you. This is like my position on comedy, right? People are offended by jokes now. And they'll get on Twitter and they'll be like, oh my God, you can't make that joke. And I'll say, what are you talking about? And my big argument here is the people who are offended by jokes, they're never actually willing to show up and protest a comedy club. But if they did, can you imagine how ridiculous you would think they looked if you drove by a comedy club and somebody was standing outside of the comedy club with a sign saying, the jokes being told in that comedy club offend me? You would think that person was a huge loser, and you'd be right. But they would at least have to travel to the comedy club. They'd have to stand outside in the rain, in the sleet, in the hot sunshine. They would have to get to the comedy club. They'd have to buy a poster board. They'd have to spend time writing their opinion on it. And then they'd have to stand there and hold it up so everybody could see them. And even when all that happened, you would drive by and you'd be like, you guys are complete losers. If you don't like what's being said in a comedy club, don't go to the comedy show. Yet when people get on social media and complain like they did about Kevin Hart, oh my God, Kevin Hart made jokes years and years ago that are offensive to me, people lose their mind, okay? And take it seriously in a way they never would if it were occurring in real life, okay? Here is another aspect of this. When you judge a person from 80 years ago who has been dead for over 30 years by our present standards for politically correct behavior, almost everybody comes up lacking. Do you know who definitely comes up lacking and is an American hero? Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. wrote that being gay was a mental illness that required treatment by a doctor. If you are arguing that anybody who had racist thoughts needs to be wiped clean of society, how can you not make the same argument about Martin Luther King Jr.'s homophobia? If you have to tear down statues for things that people said hundreds of years ago or decades and decades ago in lyrics, how can you not also make the same demand of Martin Luther King Jr. statues and roads that have his name on them? It's an illogical position that when you confront people with, they suddenly realize, oh my God, if they have any kind of remote semblance of intelligence, I am arguing for something that is thoroughly untenable here. Because I don't think there's a single social justice warrior out there, maybe I've missed it, who has been advocating for statues of Martin Luther King to come down because he was a homophobe. And I don't think there's anybody out there who's been advocating for all the street names dedicated to Martin Luther King to be pulled off. I went to Martin Luther King High School here in Nashville. There are lots of people who said, oh, you can't have any historic figure who said anything racist. You can't have a high school named after them. But I haven't heard anybody saying, well, we can't have a high school named after a homophobe. So this is, to me, a wild story that ultimately comes down to this. We can't judge historic figures based on current day precedent for things that did not exist in their lives. This is a non-ideological, non-race, non-ethnicity, non-religion, non-sexuality based issue. People say, why do you care about Kate Smith? Because the precedents being set here are that teams like the Yankees and the Philadelphia Flyers curl up in the fetal position and refuse to defend themselves when things like this happen. What they should say is, get a life. We're not changing anything. I beg for there to be an owner or a team willing to do this. I don't know what the point of having FU money is if occasionally you can't just say FU. I'm very disappointed in the Flyers, very disappointed in the Yankees, and I don't think this is a crazily out there opinion. We put up a Twitter poll, a question for everybody out there, and I gave them an opportunity to respond, and I said, whose side are you on? Do you agree with what the NHL Flyers decided to do? Over 20,000 of you voted, 96%. 96% of people in my poll said no, that you disagreed with it. Now, you can say my poll is skewed. You can say my audience thinks a certain way. Whatever the poll might be, 96% of people responding in this way is unheard of. It's almost impossible to get 96% of people to agree with anything. So this is something that I think needs to be broken down and talked about more. All right. Somebody said 90% of your followers didn't know about her until you tweeted about her. So, again, I care about precedents. Maybe this is the lawyer in me. If you regularly read or watch what I say, I care about the precedent we're setting. That's why I didn't like Brett Kavanaugh being quizzed about high school yearbook photos and comments. It's why I said that I didn't believe that the governor of Virginia should step down because of something he did decades ago, even though he's a Democrat. That's why I said I didn't think the lieutenant governor of Virginia, even though he's a black guy, should have to step down because he was accused of sexual assault. Accusations are not facts, okay? And so I care about facts, and I care about the precedent that we're setting. And if we're just going to go out there and say, hey, anybody can accuse somebody of doing something at a high school party, even if there's no corroborating evidence for it and it disqualifies from them from the job, what I think we're doing is encouraging many people out there to continue to make false accusations because they know they're going to be believed because they're a woman. Again, coming from a legal perspective, you can't believe a man because he's a man. You can't believe a woman because she's a woman. You can't believe anybody based on their race, their gender, their ethnicity, or their sexual orientation. You have to believe what the facts tell you. And I think in many ways, we're in a society that doesn't do that anymore. A couple of other quick things. Russell Westbrook. I think he and Paul George, but particularly Russell Westbrook, it's a really bad look to not respond to questions in the press conference. I understand Russell Westbrook may think he's being cool. He may have a grudge against the writer who's showing up and asking those questions. But this is utterly insane. It's a bad look for him. And anybody in Oklahoma City who's not telling him it's a bad look to be responding to questions doesn't have any clue how to manage the PR of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Here's what's happened since Kevin Durant left Oklahoma City. The Oklahoma City Thunder have won 4 playoff games. They've won 4 playoff games. They have lost 11. I think they're going to lose Game 5 on whatever the next day it is in Portland. And Russell Westbrook will be 0-3 in first-round series, and he will have 4 total wins against 12 losses. Strong argument to be made that Russell Westbrook is the most overrated player in the entirety of the NBA when it comes to the postseason. The guy flat out can't get it done. Props to Kevin Durant for having the balls to make a move. I think Westbrook, bad look. Game of Thrones. Loved episode 2 of Game of Thrones. Understand there are a lot of people now. Understand there are a lot of people out there that were upset because Game 2 didn't have enough action. Here's what I will tell you. This includes my good buddy Jason Whitlock, who's been tweeting me about this. Just wait until we get the battle between the White Walkers and between the people inside of the castle. Here is what I think has to happen. I think Bran has to die in order for the Night King to die. I think it's a little bit like Harry Potter and Voldemort in that respect. I think that the Stark statues are going to come alive. I think that the Night King is actually a Stark, and he is going to sneak his way into the crypts through a secret entrance. I believe that Jaime Lannister is going to die. I think there's going to be a lot of chaos, and my idea that triggered everybody yesterday, I believe that Tyrion is actually a Targaryen. We know Jon Snow is a Targaryen. We know now that without a doubt, Daenerys is a Targaryen. By the way, how about when she finds out Jon Snow is a Targaryen, her first thought isn't, I'm banging my nephew. It's about his claim on the Iron Throne. Craziness. Also, anybody else feel a little bit sick? Arya? Because we watched her grow up. She was like 11 or 12 when the show starts. And then, boom, she just grabs Gendry and rides him like a pony. Strange, strange times that we're living in. But I believe Tyrion is a Targaryen. His mom died during childbirth, just like Daenerys, just like Jon Snow. Also, he has touched the dragon and been able to live from doing it. And in that final scene, there's no reason for Jon and Daenerys to be standing on either side. I'm telling you right now, that's the direction we're headed. Finally, Klay Thompson, appreciate the crown being on my head again. Klay Thompson came out and dominated. Klay Thompson came out and dominated in the first half against the LA Clippers, kept it going throughout. What did he attribute his success to? He attributed his success to going for a swim in the Pacific Ocean. So, really good move. If you are out there, hop in the ocean. If you're having a shoot moment where everything's not falling in your direction, do what Klay Thompson did. Go for a dive in the Pacific Ocean. You'll be glad that you did it, and you will be well on your way to hopefully draining shots like Klay Thompson did. Warriors versus Rockets set up for next series. I think the Rockets close out the Jazz tonight. Warriors will close out the Clippers on Wednesday. And then we effectively get the NBA Finals in the next round. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for hanging out with me. My name's Clay Travis. I got to go do television now. This is OutKick the show. We try to do it every single afternoon right around 3:30 Eastern. I got television now on FS1. Gambling picks coming at 4:30 Eastern on FS1, my show. Lock it in. DBAP, boys and girls, unless you need to SBAP, kisses from me to you. Thanks for hanging out with me. I appreciate all of the time that you guys spend on the show. Be live tomorrow. Fun show coming on Fox Sports Radio. Fun television show coming next. Your boy's the king. I'll see you guys. DBAP. See y'all. Love you. Thank you, Facebook.